Hello everyone, today we'll go over a forum post published by Unity about their roadmaps on the dots development, and we'll see some of the key features that will come and some of the key changes that they will bring. So you can access this forum post through the Unity forum in the subforum entity component system. And the forum post goes first over the changes that was brought with the latest version 1.2, so the latest version of entities. The main changes that we have are the serialization support for Unity object ref. So instead of using a managed component to store resources such as textures, we can use the Unity object ref with the resource we want to use, so in an unmanaged component. This should allow you to use some of these components in burst compiled jobs, and in jobs, instead of being stuck on the main thread and non-bursted code with managed components. Some opportunities to improve your performance there. The other appreciable thing is the new type templates. So they created new type templates for iComponent data, iSystem, iJob entity, and bakers. So type templates are basically your ability to right click on the project and say you want to create a mono behavior or scriptable objects. Now we have also those templates for ECS related component types. It's not very hard to do, and you can do it yourself also, but it's appreciable that they finally added that to the editor. Next, one change that they already announced, so it's not quite new, and there is already quite a bit of discussion about it on the forum, is that they changed the way that the entities are allocated, or the entity IDs are allocated. Prior to this change, every ECS world had its own entity store, so every world could have two entities with the same index and versions. And now the entity store is globally shared across all worlds. That means that every entity, whether it's in one world or another, will always have a unique ID. And there are some concerns about that because it may break some determinism principles. So if you want to have more detail about that, I will put a link in the description to the forum post where they announced it, and that triggered a few discussions with some advanced users of ECS, and that may interest you. Next, there are a few couples of bug fixes and performance improvements, so I will skip over that. Still a very good point to fix stuff and improve performance, but this is not as impacting as the two other changes or three other changes. Next, they go over a few of the learning resources you can use to learn dots and ECS. They have various samples in different situations, both introductory samples that just brings you up to speed on what ECS is, what components are, and so on, and much more advanced sample, the Megacity Metro sample, which is a full multiplayer game experience that is developed using dots, ECS, and netcode for entities. They also did some webinars where you can get the replays of those webinars that goes over a few projects to introduce dots, same thing. You also have all the GDC docs, presentation, you have also Unity Learn, and there is also community resources. So we have ECS dots tutorials on YouTube by TurboMaxGame, CodeMonkey, and myself. I think there are other few users, and there is a link in the blog post to key resources. One key point, they are grateful for our feedback. So if you have any feedback on the direction ECS is taking or the pain points you have with ECS development and so on, please come to this forum post and leave a comment in the forum post to explain your situation, give some context about what is painful for you for game development in using ECS, and also what you would like to see as features. Sure, many of you will say animations and compatibility with GameObjects, and we'll see that in a few minutes, what they have in store for us. Next, the roadmap. And the first thing is the unification of entities and GameObjects. So they talked about it during GDC, I believe. And they give us a little bit more detail here, but not much. Basically, they will make it so that every GameObject in your project will also exist as an entity. So it's similar to the hybrid approach I explained in my Dots masterclass. You can check that out if you want to learn about Dots. But basically, for every GameObject and every entity, there will be a correlation. It's not clear exactly how it will be presented, how they will do that. I think in the GDC talk, there is a few screen capture of the inspector and the hierarchy. So some changes to come to that also, as we'll see with point 3. Linked to that, since they are they are making GameObjects and entity closer, they will also have changes to the transform APIs. Hopefully, it will not break a lot of compatibility with what we currently know. The translation system in ECS today already have position, rotation, scale components, so it should be very similar to the actual transform component. So hopefully it will be a change under the hood of the GameObject transform to use the same infrastructure as entities transform, so that we don't have too much impact on that side. And last, the third point, where they plan to unify and streamline the experience between the scene management and sub-scene management, or at least that's what I understand. So maybe we would be able to get rid of the sub-scene and have all scenes basically always baked into entities, because every GameObject will have an entity. So maybe we won't need a sub-scene at some point in the future, which would be good for cross-referencing between GameObject and entities. Hopefully that will simplify a lot of things. They also state that this consolidation between entity and GameObject should allow them to continue their work on animations and world building. What I'm not perfectly clear about here is they are talking about editors animation. I'm not exactly sure if this is more related to the way we author animation with mechanism or stuff like that, or if it's actually under the hood the runtime animation, so improve the performance of the mesh deformation and so on. But we'll see, there is another point later about that. Next, we have a topic that is already bringing quite a few remarks and comments. So there will be a deprecation of aspects. If you're not aware what aspects are, I have in my DOS masterclass a brief introduction, and in a previous video a more in-depth introduction, but if you don't want more details, don't bother, because apparently they will be deprecated. Aspects are essentially API, so ease of use interface. So you have a bunch of components that interact together or are used together to perform a behavior. So you encapsulate those components into an aspect to provide easy to use APIs and methods to perform your behavior. This was introduced with the 1.1 experimental version, I don't remember the number, because the transform system used complex component. And by complex, I mean that they used matrices, float for X4, which made the transformation complex. So they implemented aspects as a way to provide easy to use methods to transform the component. But in the 1.0 preview version, one number, I don't remember what, they completely revamped the transform system and removed or changed the local transform component from a float 4-4 matrix to 3 components, which are much easier to manipulate, making the transform aspect much less useful. So basically, I think it was to be expected that the aspect got deprecated, because they introduced it in an experimental version and removed it in the next preview version. So themselves, I don't think they were satisfied with the aspect. And the reason they give for that is that aspects are code generation based. And the argument is to say that it's too heavy on code generation, so it reduces your game development iteration time, because every time you change or have an aspect that needs to be regenerated, recompiled, it takes more time. The counter argument to that is that sometimes aspects avoid a lot of codes that you would have to write yourself. So if you replace an aspect with 1500 line of codes to do by the point about the iteration time is questionable. If you are a heavy user of the aspects, leave a comment in the forum post to make your voice heard and state what you use it for, why it's important for you to keep it. Don't worry too much, because as I stated that it's just a deprecation, so it should still be there for quite some time. And finally, there is the deprecation of the entities.forEach. So it was old version of how to iterate over components. This was replaced by the idiomatic for each that I present in my Dots masterclass series. And basically it was not available in iSystem, and it was already stated that it would be deprecated. So now it's officially deprecated. Since it's a deprecation, you should still be able to use it, but I strongly suggest that you move to either idiomatic for each or iJob entity. Up to you. Next, we have some information about the character controller. They are still working on it and making gradual improvement to have it production ready, even if it's already available and usable as a preview version. I hope there won't be too many breaking change for that, but we'll see what they have in store for us when it's released. They are also working on the vehicle controller, so if you want to have a car in your game or something like that, they're also working on that. So that's good news for everyone that want to make car-based game or any game that will require a car. Next point is the consolidation of the physics workflow, and I have some questions that I will leave in the description in the post also. They are talking about improvements that they will bring to the physics workflow. The first one is to update the broad phase to make it operate incrementally, because right now the physics is rebuilding the physics world every frame, and they want to improve that by allowing you to opt in for the incremental update of it. So it will be enableable for both dynamic and static bodies separately, and by default it's disabled, so that means that the behavior will not change from today, and it's basically an optimization that you can bring if it's pertinent to you. The other thing is that they are talking about improvements to how we author the physics. So there was already a previous post where they said that the custom physics shapes will be deprecated or removed. They are now available just as part of the sample for the physics package. And you should use the normal rigid body component or the normal GameObject physics component to author your component. And that's actually what I'm using in my Dots masterclass. What is not clear here is, will this consolidation with the fact that every entity will have, every GameObject will have an entity, make it so that every query works on both GameObjects, physics GameObjects, and entities GameObjects? Because I had this behavior with the Cinemachine integration I covered in my previous video, where basically the Cinemachine has a deocclusion system where the camera, if it's obstructed by a physics object, will move forward to not be obstructed. But that only works for a GameObject or physics GameObject. So I had to implement a simple implementation of that for ECS physics. And the question here is, will that enable you or Cinemachine, for instance, in this example, to work with both physics system, or is it just a toggle or a switch saying, okay, I want to use this kind of physics or this kind of physics? So I really hope that the combination of this consolidation of physics workflow and the fact that every GameObject will have an entity will make it possible to have this kind of behavior. They also talk about enabling crossplay multiplayer game creation. So we have the multiplayer Megacity Metro demo, and they are keeping updating the netcode and the multiplayer toolkit. So there is a package that came to enable you to simulate game clients more easily without having to resort to duplicating the project, having multiple computers or whatever. So it's a bit funky with burst as I've tested it, but it's nice to see that they will bring improvements. Maybe there has already been some improvements I'm not aware of, but nice to see the work keeps going on this front. Next, one thing is they want to improve the parallel scheduling and configuration. Right now in ECS, the jobs are only scheduled, or multi-threading is only possible with jobs, and jobs are only scheduled from the main thread. What they want to do is to enable systems to run in parallel. So systems themselves, which are running in the main thread, should be able to run in parallel, which means that jobs themselves should be able to be scheduled in parallel. So maybe this will bring some additional improvement, and maybe this will also, like they say, prevent some common issues where a long-running job is making the main thread stall because we are waiting for it to complete before we can schedule the next job. So if systems can run in parallel, we could have, let's say, the long-running job take a thread and the main system loop run in parallel to schedule another job in parallel and not have some workers do nothing while we wait for the long-running job to finish. Also, profiler enhancements to come with a new view that is being developed on how job dependencies interacts with job system. So I don't know what form it will take. Right now, we already have, as it was covered by Turbo in one of the Hotpass show, the ability to see when a system schedule job, which jobs or where it is in the timeline and when it starts, when it stops, and where it goes back. Maybe this one will take the form of something that we've seen with City Skylines and some forum post. If I find it, I will put it in the description, where you have your system and basically the dependencies between systems represented as a graph. I think that would be a cool view. I don't know if it's that or if it's something else. We'll see. And coming back to animations, or something related to animation at least, improvements to the performance of entities graphics, and they are talking about dots deformation in order to provide mesh deformation pipeline. So hopefully this will also help them to come back with more advanced or more mature dots animation, because there was a dots animation package previously, which was suspended, let's say, for now. So hopefully in coming versions of ECS, we will have a package for dots animation and not have to rely on the hybrid approach. Maybe with the GameObject getting an entity, we'll also have improvements to the actual animations of GameObjects behind the hood without you to actually have to use entities or know about entities. So great work in perspective, I think. And finally, they go over new education content that they are working on. So new samples, new tutorial, new game samples. So it's nice to see that they are trying to use their own system to implement maybe not very complex game or AAA games, but at least complete game prototypes to see how the package are behaving and what are the weak points or painful points that could come with game development using those packages. And finally, webinars that will be upcoming on May 15th about the Megacity Metro sample. So if you want to have a more interactive review of Megacity Metro, register for the webinar so you can have some explanation and ask questions in the chat and so on. So go check it out if you're interested in dots development, ECS development, and multiplayer development. Personally, I am registered to that, so I will probably see you there. And if not, enjoy your game development journey. And as usual, if you like the video, like and share the video. And if you want to support me, again, you can support me through Ko-fi, single donation, monthly subscription, and get access to exclusive content. And otherwise, don't forget about the many sales and the publisher of the week. Link in the description below, affiliate link in the description below if you want to support me and also benefit from the many awesome assets that are available in the asset store. See you in the next video.